Remember at the end of Joe Biden's presidency when all the media ever wanted to talk about was his age? His age, the shoes he's wearing, what he said. Well, to the mainstream media, do you know that Donald Trump is actually the oldest president to have ever been elected? And unlike Joe Biden during his presidency, Donald Trump's brain doesn't work. Have you thought about maybe covering that? Well, they're about to be forced to, because Donald Trump's cognitive decline is on display every single day and was during a disaster Oval Office press conference when his aides had to jump in to save him because his brain completely failed while signing executive orders. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, there was a lot that went wrong right before Donald Trump's brain completely broke, and I want to check some of that out with this tariff talk right here.
Does that mean that countries offering zero tariffs won't get reciprocity?
You are going to always have a baseline. I mean, there could be an exception at some point. We'll see. Somebody does something exceptional for us. That's always possible. But basically, you have a baseline of a minimum of 10%. And some of them will be much higher, 40%, 50%, 60%, as they've been doing to us over the years. We had a wonderful deal yesterday. We have 4 or 5 other deals coming immediately. We have many deals coming down the line, and ultimately we're just signing the rest of them in. But we always have a baseline of 10%.
And then specifically,
We seem to be getting new updates on how the tariffs work, or really how they don't work, every single day. But this is a new one that Carolyn Levitt kind of soft launched this morning, and now Donald Trump is going fully in on, that the tariffs will always be there no matter what deal is made. So I ask, what is the purpose of the deals? Why would anyone want to do the deals? I don't think Trump knows at this point. He clearly doesn't understand trade at all. This is the genius businessman who doesn't understand trade at all. And he made that pretty clear talking about China right here.
We have to make a great deal for America.
Are you going to be disappointed if he comes back without a deal?
No, not at all. Because we already made a great deal. We're not doing business with China right now.
Given your relationship with
We lost $1 trillion last year with China, $1 trillion. So if you're not going to do business with them, you're not going to lose $1 trillion. But we lost. I want China to do great. I'm very friendly with President Xi. I have great respect for him and for China. But we can't continue to allow them to do what they did. When I was president, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs and taxes. And then Biden screwed.
Donald Trump doesn't understand trade deficits. He thinks we're losing money, but we're only ever losing money when, because of Donald Trump's trade war, money isn't being spent in the economy, which is what we're seeing. We are on the verge of Targets and Walmart's, grocery stores across the country having empty shelves, the market continuing to crash. People aren't getting jobs right now. Soon they will be losing them, especially college students who are graduating, like my friends, are worried about if they'll be able to get a job or the one that they have will be taken away from them. That is the current state of things. That is Donald Trump's genius trade war at work that he does not seem to understand. He doesn't think he's responsible, clearly, for anything he does while in office, which is why what happened today, considering what he said, is so hypocritical that we're going to get into. But you can see some of that with what Donald Trump had to say about Ukraine right here.
The U.S. Embassy in Kyiv is warning right now about possible Russian significant attack on Kyiv. What's your message for Putin?
I have a message for both parties. Get this war ended. We're losing 5,000 soldiers a week, Russian and Ukrainian soldiers, and other people also, by the way. And I say, get this stupid war finished.
Of course, Donald Trump is asked about Putin's war and says it's both sides. He's doing the both sidesism. But didn't you promise that this thing would already be over? Again, this is the no accountability administration, and Donald Trump really doesn't seem to think he's in charge, which doesn't shock me considering it doesn't look like he is. Just take a watch at what happened when Donald Trump was signing executive orders in this clip right here.
Next, Mr. President, we have House Joint Resolution 24. This is the same basic idea, but this relates to walk-in coolers and freezers and other refrigeration devices. Again, last-minute Biden-era regulation that hits ordinary Americans hard.
And what do they do?
They put
Increase
increase
the energy efficiency requirements for walk-ins, coolers, and freezers, and therefore putting an undue burden on businesses across the country. Everything from restaurants to pharmacies, hospitals were all
To a point where it didn't
impacted.
work. In other words, they made the restrictions so strong that it didn't work.
And it was going to cost them so much money to actually meet the energy efficiency standards, which didn't really save much money. So this is going to actually help our small businesses across the country, Mr. President.
Donald Trump doesn't even know what he's signing. Remember when he announced that, Joe Biden's pardons, null and void. They don't count. They were signed with AutoPen. Maybe Joe Biden didn't even know they were happening. Well, Donald Trump doesn't know what he's signing things when he's signing them with his own hand. So how can those actions, how can those executive orders count, right? By the same bad MAGA logic, nothing that Donald Trump signed in office should count because he's completely lost his mind. This is absurd. They are explaining things to him like he's a child. Well, Donald, this is what your orders do. You're paying attention? Do you want a cookie? Absurd. Absurd. Especially considering the damage being done to our economy by a man who has decided he's in control of it. That's what's happening right now. Well, we talked to Senator Gallego about this, but if it was Bernie Sanders who decided that he solely, through the actions of the state, would be controlling the economy as Donald Trump is with his trade wars, and it was causing this type of destruction, Fox News would be on fire 24/7. But that is what is happening. And that is why even Donald Trump's closest allies and supporters are furious, as Ari Melber broke down right here.
There's new polling that actually shows this is not a left-right issue anymore, not one that goes half and half. This is 75%, a big majority of Americans concerned that the tariffs will juice prices. 61% want businesses to actually say when the tariffs are affecting prices. Again, that's something the Trump administration has opposed. There was some back and forth with different retailers about it. Trump was angry and posting specifically about Amazon and Jeff Bezos about it. Ford raising prices on 3 different cars today and saying that the trade war will cut into their profits by over $1 billion. These are the examples of what's been going. If you follow the news, some days it's the top story, some days there's other things going on. If you turn on the financial news or read the Wall Street press, it's every day. Toyota says the decline's not going to be a couple points here, but rather 20%, a fifth of their total profits, all because of Donald Trump's decision to stick to these tariffs. So it's not going well by all of those measurable ways to look at it. The American businesses that we hear from, small, medium, and large, say the tariffs are bad. Most governments view this as a kind of a very Trumpian specific escalation, not something that was inevitable or the normal course of trade this year, just something that Trump barreled right into. In fact, when I show you 75% of Americans concerned about the tariffs, you have to look around to find people who still think this might be a good idea. Here's Fox News' Laura Ingraham.
No one wants what Trump is doing except, the MAGA crowd, the reset crowd. Wall Street doesn't want to do this.
That's part of how she was teeing up the issues to, of course, one of the Trump officials who's involved in all this. Trump is trying to sell austerity, but that's at odds with everything that he said during the campaign, right? That we would get prosperity, and right away. Trump's Treasury Secretary says kids might have fewer dolls, but they'll get in exchange economic freedom, which has become a national punchline.
Yes, if there's one thing children love, it's the concept of economic freedom. They're raising prices on Barbie. Even she has to cut back. She had to move out of Barbie's dream house and into Barbie's dream studio apartment with 2 roommates. Her pink convertible is now a 2007 Toyota Tercel. It's very sad. Come on, don't make Barbie tighten her belt even more. She only has a 1-inch waist.
The Barbie jokes can kind of give us all a little moment to exhale, but the punchline there that works, and it works regardless of who you voted for, or people who wanted a change from Biden, or people who thought Trump would bring prosperity like he said he would. This isn't really about the partisan imprint from last year's election. This is now about the governing of President Trump and how it's actually going. And people don't think it's going well. The punchline is there isn't really a good other side of this debate. MAGA figures are looking at the trade deficits. And remember, it's complicated, we've heard from economists, but by the Trump plan, meaning what he said this was about, was dealing with the trade deficit countries, China, Mexico, Vietnam. Those are the big countries you see there where he says we're getting the raw end of the deal. That's what he and his allies have fixated on.
With respect, are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal because you're a president who needs a result at a difficult time?
I think that it's a great deal for both parties.
Now,
the world has been coming to the U.S., and China has been the missing piece.
China wants to do something. And look, they have to at this point. You know, essentially, they made $1 trillion a year. You know, we almost had a deal with China where we're going to open up China. It was almost done.
China has taken over 60,000 of our factories, over 5 million manufacturing jobs. The conflict we're having with them cannot be understated, and we have to be clear-eyed about that.
all right, so as far as Trump aides are concerned, including Peter Navarro, who's been on this program, can't be understated or overstated. It is just the biggest deal to go after China and those other countries I showed you where you have this gap. So that's the whole priority. If you hear Donald Trump pop up today, tomorrow, or next week talking about other countries and other stuff, by his measure, forget anyone else, by his measure, that is not what the trade war is about. It's not why he started the tariffs, because, again, he wanted to make up for the big deficit countries where basically he says America's getting a raw deal because we're buying more than we're selling, yada, yada, yada. That's his metric. Now, in addition, I can tell you, if you want to get into sort of the economics of fact-checking, and it's not black and white, but most mainstream economists have said, economic experts, economists, professors, and people in the markets who do this day by day, they say that you actually don't think of trade deficits as automatically bad. Indeed, there are many occasions where you want to run trade deficits. To pick a very simple example, if you're a country that doesn't have the weather to make bananas, then you're going to have a banana deficit because you want to ship them into your country.
This is an insane man. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little tired of him destroying our country. And I guess everybody else is. So let's take this moment and make it a moment and continue to fight back and speak out every single day. We're doing so on this show. And if you want to support that, we're getting pretty close to 1 million subscribers. So you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.